A weak, deteriorating Donald Trump has been playing a lot of political theater lately, and that doesn't really work when you don't know your lines, your makeup is terrible, and everyone around you is tripping over their cues. That's exactly what we saw happen today at the US Open when Donald Trump tried to force the media to block out all of the boos that were going to rain down upon him, only for them to be so loud that everyone heard it. And after Donald Trump fled the US Open early, he was confronted over those boos, asked about the crowd, and his response was exactly what you'd expect. Completely losing it outside of Air Force One. We're going to get into that meltdown, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get to Donald Trump talking about the event that he was mercilessly booed at, I want to start with him rambling in a very strange way about the city he was returning to, and that's D.C. right here.
When you look at what happened to D.C. in a short period of time, honestly, it's amazing. Over a period of 12 days, in other words, on the 12th day, we had the crime just about solved. And right now, people are walking down, they're going out right now to restaurants all over D.C., whereas if you go back a year ago or 6 months ago, nobody was going out. Nobody. We did it in 12 days. Now it's better than it was in 12 days. We'll make it even better, and then we're also going to clean it up. We're going to clean up the city. We're going to make some great improvements to the roads, to the medians, to all of the signs. You got signs that have been up for 30, 40 years. They're worn out. They look like hell. We're going to redo the signs. We're going to put up new signs. It's going to look beautiful. Within a 6-month period, it'll look really beautiful. But you have essentially a crime-free zone. I mean, here we are on a nice Sunday evening. If you'd like, it feels like Saturday, actually. If you like, you could go out and you could have dinner on me, but you wouldn't do that. But you could have dinner on me if you'd like.
Donald Trump's fascination with restaurants just goes to show how, one, out of touch he is, two, how little he cares about actual substantive policy results. He's not citing any real stats about crime. Donald Trump is just pretending that his rich friends feel more comfortable going out to dinner, which they always did, by the way. Donald Trump only talks to billionaires who walk around with security teams around them, so I don't think he actually knows what it's like to ever feel uncomfortable anywhere. And if anyone feels uncomfortable, it's the people at the US Open today who had to be around Donald Trump. But again, his focus is just on the elites. There is no crime policy that Donald Trump is putting in place with the National Guard. He just wants to, one, intimidate, and two, set a precedent for him to be able to do whatever he wants because he looks weak. And he looked really weak when he was confused and asked about Japan and South Korea right here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Do you have plans to go to Japan and South Korea this fall?
What does that mean?
Do you have plans to go to South Korea?
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. But it's going to be very interesting what comes out. I think we may have learned something because when they come here and there's nobody that can do what they're supposed to be doing and they bring people, those people can also teach our people. It's complicated stuff. And something very interesting could come out of that. Thank you, everybody.
So, of course, Donald Trump is being asked about how his tariffs are affecting trade. He doesn't understand that and immediately thinks very clearly when he says it's good when they come over here that the question was about a different country in Asia, not that they were asking about China, where Donald Trump has said that he's happy for Chinese students to come to the U.S., very much against the will of the America First conservatives. So little racism and cognitive decline there from Donald Trump. And it didn't stop because, of course, he had to misunderstand everything being asked of him about tariffs, including why beef prices are rising.
Mr. President, the price of beef continues to rise and other items keep going up. Is there any way to address the cost of beef?
Yeah, once it kicks in, once our policies kick in, the price of beef will be going down, just like the price of eggs went down and the price of a lot of other grocery items went down. Beef will go down. It'll all go down. You have energy.
Okay, so you haven't put your policy in place, but the tariffs are in place, and you're not suggesting new policy besides the tariffs. So what's going to change to make groceries cheaper? Because it just seems like everything's more expensive and it's your fault and people hate you for it. I think I summed it up pretty well. That's about it, and that's part of the reason that we saw such a loud crowd pop from the U.S. Open today, where Donald Trump was mercilessly booed. And when he was asked about it, he had a bit of a different reaction or a different take on what happened.
Well, I loved it. First of all, the two players have unbelievable talent. It just seemed that they hit the ball harder than I've ever seen before. Incredible talent. And I enjoyed it. And I used to go all the time, but, lately it's a little bit more difficult to go. I really enjoyed it. They were really nice. The fans were really nice. I didn't know what to expect. Usually you would say that would be a somewhat progressive, as they say nowadays, crowd. Sometimes some people would call it liberal, but we'll use the word they like to use, progressive. But they were great. The fans were great.
The crowd was good for you? It was more progressive usually than you thought, but this time it wasn't. Donald, they booed you. Did you not hear? The White House's response is that anyone who says that Trump was booed has Trump derangement syndrome. But I think we all heard what happened today. The man was booed by everyone. It doesn't matter if he told ESPN to drown out the sounds or pump in some crowd noise so it didn't sound like he was being humiliated. But that's exactly what happened. Donald Trump keeps trying to pull these stunts and none of them are working. He just looks weak. It's why he's attacking Chicago right here.
No, it's a safe place now. But
you've been talking a lot about Chicago, and there was
Chicago's been talking a lot. So Chicago last week lost 9 people were killed and 28 people were shot. The week before it was 7 people were killed and 37 people were shot. The week before that, it was the same kind of number. Chicago is a very dangerous place, and we have a governor that doesn't care about crime. I guess we could solve Chicago very quickly, but we're going to make a decision as to where we go over the next day or two.
Donald Trump can try to play the act of the tough guy, but no one's convinced. No one believes it, and especially when you're saying you're going to war within American City, it doesn't sound like you have an objective goal. And that's what I keep pushing Democrats to talk about. Don't go, oh, well, we care about crime. It's important. Don't qualify the questions about Donald Trump's invasions of American cities with, well, I promise we really care. Talk about how little he cares. You don't declare war on Chicago if you think that there's a problem to be solved. You talk about investing in ways to keep communities safe. Donald Trump hasn't done that because Donald Trump doesn't care. Donald Trump doesn't care about any major American city, especially New York, where he is trying to interfere with the mayoral election because he knows that Zohran Mamdani will hold him accountable and the billionaires as well who are trying to prevent him from being elected. And he spoke all about that in a recent interview that we got to check out because I love Zohran.
Eric Adams is staying in the race. He announced that he is not going to take some other position he was reportedly being offered by Trump. Why do you think he's staying?
I cannot speak to Eric Adams' motivations or his interests. I can just tell you that it's been a lot of noise these last few weeks. And we've seen that this is the specialty of Donald Trump and his puppets. A lot of noise, few results. And all of it distracts from the fact that 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty in this city. And so often their concerns, their welfare has been secondary to the interests of these so-called leaders in trying to figure out their own futures.
Do you think Trump's involvement in this race at this point is helping you?
I think it's showcasing what's at stake, which is the fact that we have a vision to actually help New Yorkers afford their city. And Donald Trump has a vision to try and rip apart the very fabric of this city. He has passed legislation that will throw millions of New Yorkers off of their health care, ran a campaign on cheaper groceries, and is now cutting SNAP for hungry New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs.
What about when Donald Trump has threatened to bring troops into New York? He's done it in Washington. He wants to do it in Baltimore, Chicago. If you're elected mayor, do you think that that's the first thing he's going to do? Because he's made it clear he's invested in what happens here. He's a longtime New York resident. He does not want to see you elected. If you are, do you expect that he'll get involved?
We will prepare for every eventuality. And I agree with what Commissioner Tisch of the NYPD said, which is that we do not need the National Guard here. The NYPD can create that public safety for New Yorkers. And we've seen an example of how to fight back against this federal overreach in California, where you had the governor, the mayor, the attorney general work together to file a lawsuit that a judge recently found that the federal government was illegally literally deploying the National Guard there. That's the kind of partnership we need to see in New York. And yet that's exactly the opposite of what we saw when Andrew Cuomo was leading the state.
So lawsuits would be your first step?
I think lawsuits. I also think the fact that we look at our own law department, which has been on the forefront of some of the most critical cases in the country, and yet it's staffed at pre-pandemic levels, not even at the level that it used to be before COVID. That needs to be brought up with 200 additional lawyers.
So in Baltimore, in the state of Maryland, just today, the mayor there and the governor, they're surging resources into the city to address crime, to address public safety. They're saying it's not anything to do with Donald Trump, but what are you going to do about public safety in New York? I mean, is there a responsibility that you would have to actually make the city safer for New Yorkers, to address those concerns that are very real?
Absolutely. That is one of my primary responsibilities. And it's interesting that you actually mentioned Baltimore, because you can see in Baltimore that they've managed to bring down the number of homicides and shootings through an understanding of the very different tools you have to implement to actually confront the scourge of gun violence. Here in New York City, I would work alongside the NYPD to create that public safety and also invest in existing infrastructure we have here that is not at the full scale it could be. Infrastructure that has been shown to reduce shootings by up to 40%, and it goes by the name of the crisis management system.
That is what a real Democrat looks like. And if you are a Democrat in Congress, especially one who represents New York, maybe you should forget about what your donors are telling you to do, have a little bit of backbone, and endorse the man, for God's sakes. He is our Democratic nominee. Do not tell us to vote blue no matter who, but then when your favorite billionaire gets upset, we say, maybe not. And really, there's a lot of people I could talk about. The person I want to specifically single out is Tom Suozzi, who recently said that AOC and Zoran should go start their own party because they're not Democrats. You're telling me two of the most popular Democrats in our party aren't Democrats? Who are you to even speak? Tom Suozzi represents a district that Joe Biden won. Like, you're not, we always hear this from the moderate Democrats who say, oh, these progressives with their ideas that are so radical, like feeding kids and maybe not funding a genocide. They don't know what it's like to win in these red districts. But the issues that these people want to moderate on is like big tax cuts to hedge funds and selling out to the crypto lobby. I don't want to hear from it. If you want to sell trans people and immigrants down the river because you think that's a successful political strategy, hey, by the way, those attacks that Donald Trump is launching, they're unpopular. So maybe you learn to make actual Democratic policies popular instead of just whining and attacking AOC and Zoran. Get behind the leaders of our party, the real leaders, not the complainers. That's my message. And we're going to keep talking about it every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.